right. So we have people coming in. Hi, Laylee. Do you want to say a little bit about what you're looking forward to, where you're from? Hi. So we're going to get started momentarily. I know more and more people will come in. How are you doing today? Awesome. Great to see you here. So we'll start in just a minute. I want to give some people time to come in, get settled. All right. I see more people coming in. Very excited. Krishna, come say hello in the chat. We're just about getting started. And tell us what you're excited about to learn. This is a communication webinar. So we are going to be going through various strategies, and we're going to do some activities as well. So I'm very excited for you all to be here. All right. So come say hello in the chat. Tell us what you're excited to learn. Tell us where you're from. Maybe share like a fun fact about you if you would like. What brings you here, for example. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. I think everyone can see that okay. Let me know if you, for some reason, cannot see the presentation. But it looks like everyone is okay with it. Okay, perfect. So let's go through this. I wanted to talk about social context because this is something that will make you a lot more comfortable to speak across various settings, right? So sometimes when people have social anxiety, it's because they're unfamiliar with certain social environments, certain social settings. They might not feel very comfortable. So I'm going to share some strategies that get you more attuned to paying attention to your surroundings, to understanding the social context, to understanding the participants, and so on and so forth. And we have more people here. So excited to see you all. Hello, hello. Welcome. I see familiar faces, which is always lovely. All right. And with that, let's go on ahead. Feel free also to take the time right now to just, silence your notifications on your phone or your devices, because that way, you got your full undivided attention here. How's that sound? Good, I hope. Okay, great. So let me just make sure I have a couple windows open. So I want to make sure everything is all set. Perfect. Okay. So welcome everyone. I like to start off these webinars just by giving you a little bit of an intro to who I am. Most of you will know me from the YouTube channel, the Spotify podcast, so on and so forth. So we're also here in the community, which is what I run as head of community. And I'm here to empower you with communication skills, social skills, help you reach social fluency, which is not just English language fluency, but understanding how to communicate across different scenarios, different communication contexts, to do different speech acts, to navigate across various cultures as well. So this is very important in our globalized society. And I'm helping you to increase your confidence as well. All right. So if you do love what we do here, it would really mean the world to us if you give us a rating on Spotify. So if you listen to us on Spotify for the podcast, you can actually leave up to 5 stars, which would be incredible. And then leave a little review on Apple Podcasts if you would like. So that's wonderful. Oh, you're welcome, Amy. Very happy to have you here. Okay, and all of you as well participating. So a little bit about my background, just for those of you who want to get to know me a little bit more. I've got an advanced master's, a second master's from Columbia University, and that's in TESOL, Applied Linguistics, and EdTech. And I've got a master's in TESOL and English Language Education from Bahçeşehir University in Istanbul. And I've got a double undergrad in French and communication. I was a double major at Hamilton College, and that's in New York as well. So that's just a little bit about my background. And I've been teaching training. I've been teacher training. I've been doing teaching all levels, corporate employees, executives, children, teenagers, adults, all levels, K-12, for over 15 years. So very excited to be able to, consolidate all of my learnings and findings and research into the Explearning Academy, our private global community, which is super incredible. Okay, I'm a New Yorker. I was born and bred there, born and raised. I am an avid traveler. I speak English fluently. Obviously, I'm a native English speaker, but sometimes people ask me, and that's fine. That's great. I love getting those questions. I'm a fluent French speaker, a fluent Turkish speaker, and I learned those languages, later. So I am fully proficient in them. So I want to just show you that it is possible, obviously, to be able to reach that fluency that you might be looking for in English or other languages. And I'm currently learning Greek. I'm a global citizen, like I said, an avid traveler, and I've worked and I've lived abroad. So that's why that cross-cultural component is super important. As a multilingual and multicultural person, cross-cultural communication, intercultural communication are very important if we want to become global citizens of the world, interact with people from all over the world, or live in, cosmopolitan cities like New York City, right? Or London, right? These places where they might be considered English speaking, but you have people from all over the world there. So navigating different cultures is very important. So that's just a little bit about me, but you can always check out my LinkedIn if you want to know some more fun facts. All right, I'm going to take a sip of water. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about today's agenda. So we're going to talk about what is social context? What in the world is that? Look at strategies to master it, because I want you to start implementing these in your everyday lives, which you'll be able to do right after participating in this webinar. And then we're going to do some interactive exercises. I'm going to give you some scenarios, and we're going to go through them and figure out what's what, who's who, and understand and apply the strategies that I'm giving you today. Does that sound good? Give me a thumbs up in the chat. I would love for you to make use of this chat, because that way you're interacting with the material, you're interacting with each other, you're interacting with me, and I would love to see your favorite emoji. Please share that with me now. Excellent, excellent. Okay, wonderful emojis coming in. Terrific. I love the thumbs up. That's always a great one. It's always a really great one. Okay, perfect. So, any ideas as to what social context could be? And feel free to share something in the chat. What do you think social context is? What are we referring to when we talk about social context? I would love to see that, because, this is something that might make sense when you're listening to it. Oh, like someone says social context, but let's see what it really means. Okay, interaction with other people. Absolutely. What else? Any other ideas? Social context. All right. While you are thinking and while you are chatting, let's go through the definition. I see a lot of people typing, so that's very exciting. I'm going to give you a couple seconds here. I'll take another sip of water. It's very hot where I am, so gotta stay hydrated. I hope everyone's staying hydrated wherever you are. Okay, so social context. Ooh, the vibe of the conversation. I like that. Absolutely. There's definitely some of that in there as well. Okay, so it refers to the immediate physical, right? The physical setting and the social setting in which people live or in which something happens or develops. Okay, it includes the culture that individuals are socialized in, which influences their beliefs, their values, their norms, traditions. It encompasses the people, the institutions, and the groups individuals interact with. That could be anywhere from family to friends to educational to religious institutions, right? So all of that combined. And the social context, right, influences the way people perceive and understand the world around them. So that absolutely is going to affect how we are communicating with people, what we say, how we say it, how we dress, how we behave, how others are doing those things as well in that context. And therefore, it will shape our behavior, our decisions, our interactions, our communication in both ways that are overt, meaning obvious, and also subtle. So it's dynamic, right? It's constantly evolving, even when we're in one setting. Let's say a birthday party, that can still be evolving. We're going to somehow sometimes change the way we interact with people based on a number of things in that social context. And not every birthday party social context is the same, right? So it can be based, these changes can be based on these factors such as location, time, individual experiences, cultural background, cultural experiences, worldview, which is perspectives, right, on life, on the world, on everything like that. So this is social context. And it's very important to know that social context is going to determine how we communicate, how we behave, and what the expectation is of the other people we're communicating with, what the expectation is there with them. So lots to think about. Okay, so let's look at a couple of strategies. We're going to go into these more in depth, but I want to give you a little bit of an overview. How are we doing so far? Who's with me? Can I get some thumbs up in the chat? Let's see some thumbs up. You know, understanding social context, excellent. I love the emojis. Thank you. Understanding social context is going to help you become a more effective communicator. We're not just becoming fluent in a language like English. We're becoming socially fluent. We're understanding the ins and outs of communication, of human behavior, of social psychology, of emotional social intelligence. All of these lovely nuances that transcend language, right? It's not just about understanding the mechanics of language, grammar, syntax. It's so much more. It's so much more. And this is what sets you apart. If you are trying to become fluent, it's that social fluency that you really need to have, that communication aspect, understanding how to communicate well, how to communicate effectively. So let's look at these. We've got observation. So understanding how people interact with each other, how people interact with the environment. So observing people in different social contexts, right? How many people like people watching? This is essentially when, you know, you're in a public square, a public place, a public park, let's say, and you just kind of sit down somewhere and you just see how people are interacting, right? It's like a live performance unfolding before your very eyes, kind of like theater. I always really appreciated that when I was living in Paris and I was living there at different parts in my life. I always really loved the cafe culture. And one of the reasons I really liked it was because it kind of allowed you to understand social context through observation. So I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, but essentially most of the cafes will have the seats facing outside, facing in the street or the park where all the action is taking place, right? So you end up just watching people as they walk, as they chat, as they do things, kids playing, all these different fun human activities, and you start to see, different social behaviors, which is really cool. So that's people watching. I think, the epitome of that is definitely in these beautiful Parisian cafes. And yeah, so if you go to Paris, the next time you do that, remember, you can do some observation there. Okay, then we've got active listening and empathy, right? So it's not just listening for what people are saying, but how they are saying it. What is the tone like? What are they saying exactly? What are they doing with their nonverbal behaviors? What is their prosody like? What is their intonation doing? All of these things that are really important, right? And then that empathy component, which is, being able to understand someone by putting yourself in their position. What are they experiencing? And if you don't understand that from their body language, then maybe you resort to verbal communication and exchange, right? So essentially asking them, is there something wrong? Can I help out with anything? Things like that. And really practicing active listening from an empathetic standpoint so that you're able to ask important questions, clarifying questions, elaboration questions, things that will help you understand. And then we've got cultural intelligence, which is also known as cultural competence. And this is very important because this is how you're going to navigate different cultures, right? As global citizens of the world. Learning about different cultures and customs and countries and how they influence behavior and communication, both verbal communication and nonverbal communication. And with this, it's really important to check our biases, right? We all have inherent biases. Some are learned, some are sort of like innate somehow, but they're all really learned essentially. And being aware of those, right? That's where things like stereotyping comes in. Just being aware of that and knowing how to suppress them or put them aside and take, a context without thinking of those biases, right? Because that can really be detrimental when you're communicating. If you have those stereotypes in mind and these assumptions in mind or your own biases, and they're not really reflective of what's actually happening. Okay, so what are some ideas here for, the strategies for observation, right? We've got developing empathy, which is really important. And it's the ability to understand the feelings of others and share in those feelings, right? So you don't just see what's happening. You can actually almost experience it, right? Your best friend is sad. You're going to feel some sadness. You're not going to be, jumping off the walls in glee. So this is empathy, right? Thinking about recognizing different perspectives, taking into account other people's worldviews, experiences, ideas, opinions, viewpoints. This is all very helpful when you are in a situation and you're trying to read the room. You're trying to understand what kind of social context is this? Who are the people I'm participating with? What are we talking about, right? Have you ever just walked into a social setting, let's say a meeting, and people are already talking and chatting, and you don't really know what's going on? You're unclear and unsure of the situation. This is really great here, right? Observing. Have those observation skills kick in, those tools, okay? And being empathetic, of course, as well. So some of the tips, you can look at nonverbal cues, which is, very important. So what are nonverbal cues? Body language, tone of voice, facial expressions, micro expressions. And this is, very important because it's not just about what somebody says, but how they are saying it. What are they doing with their body language? What is their tone of voice? The paralinguistics, which is the formal term. So much more than just the words that we utter, right? Active listening. What is somebody saying exactly? How are they saying it? And, what is it that they're really trying to say? What can you read between the lines? What are they getting at? What are they hinting at? What is the subtlety there? Right? And then put yourself in their shoes, right? What is their perspective? So instead of being super judgmental and saying, oh, I don't like that person, I just, I don't like them. Why is that? Maybe it's your own judgment. Maybe you're not putting yourself in their shoes. Maybe you're not being empathetic enough. And again, this is something that you're going to do in real time as you communicate with people, right? The social context is dynamic. It's changing. We are dynamic beings, right? So of course, if we're in a situation where we're interacting with other dynamic, complex beings, human beings, then of course, we have to be on our toes. We have to know how to adapt, right? Be malleable in that sense. Okay, excellent. So I want to practice. I have a question here for you. So let's take a hypothetical situation. So Hannah is a new team lead in a software development company. And she notices that one of her team members, Mark, let's call him, has been quieter than usual during the virtual meetings for the past week. Mark, usually active and engaged, now appears distracted and contributes less. Based on the importance of observation in a social context for developing empathy, which of the following actions should Hannah take? Okay, let's have a look at our options, shall we? Okay, so, right, we've got Hannah. She sees that Mark is not his usual active, participatory self, right? He usually is very engaged in the virtual meetings. And what should Hannah do in this situation? She's a lead, right? She's a new team lead. So she's got to take some sort of action. So what should she do? A, should she address Mark's behavior in front of the entire team during the next meeting, asking him why he's been so quiet lately? Should Hannah B, assume Mark's reduced participation is because he does not find the project interesting and then assign him different tasks without consulting him? Should she C, send Mark a private message after the meeting expressing concern and offering a listening ear if he wishes to share anything? Or should she D, ignore the change in behavior, believing that personal matters should remain private and that Mark will approach if he feels the need, if the timing is right? Okay, what do you think Miss Hannah should do? And I'll go back to, okay, we're getting some answers. Very exciting. What do we think? C, send Mark a private message after the meeting expressing concern and offering a listening ear if he wishes to share anything. Excellent. Excellent job. Right? These are really challenging situations to navigate, right? We need to be able to know what is socially appropriate, what is the right thing to do, and always keeping in mind, am I listening actively, right? Am I understanding what's going on here? Listening for body language too, right? Noticing somebody is less participatory, more quiet than their usual selves. And then being empathetic. So well done. Well done. Excellent. So proud of you. Okay, let's go on. Okay, now we've got active listening for understanding social context. And I'll tell you, it is so crucial to be able to listen actively. Communication is a two-way street. There's speaking and there's listening, right? We have to do both of these things if we want to be effective communicators. The assumption that, oh, to be a good communicator, all you have to do is speak well, don't care about listening. That's actually not true whatsoever. Some of the best communicators actually listen more than they speak, right? They're observing, they're listening, they're empathetic, they're understanding the social context. They're trying to get the vibe, what's going on, and paying attention. So, very important. All right, so here are some strategies. I've divided them up. So the first one is in the workplace, okay? So this will be relevant to you in your business settings, business context, workplace settings. And again, these strategies transcend language. So you can use these strategies in your L1 native language. They will work. Trust me. We have people joining our community for the communication skills that they can use in their own native languages, not just to be able to be proficient in English and have social fluency in English, which is really cool. Okay, so give the speaker your full undivided attention, maintain eye contact, and avoid distractions, right? It's like what I said at the beginning, silence your phones, don't be preoccupied with other things going on, just pay attention. And when you're in a face-to-face setting, even in a virtual setting, try to make eye contact with the camera as much as you can. Of course, if you have a screen you're looking at, that's important too. But when you're in a situation where you're facing somebody, you really want to make eye contact with them, especially in the American context, because eye contact is a sign of respect. Okay, so that's important. Ask some questions, clarifying questions, follow-up questions to make sure that you understand the speaker's perspective and what they're saying, right? Can you give me an example of that? Or what did you mean by that? Or do you mind clarifying that point? Okay, so this is really great. And then paraphrasing. So paraphrasing is not saying verbatim, word for word, copying the person, what they said. Instead, it's putting it into your own words, but it's showing that you understood the message, right? So making sure that the meaning is the same, okay? And this is a great comprehension check. So the speakers say, oh, actually, it's not quite what I meant. This is where, I can share some more information so you are following me. Or they can say, yes, absolutely, that's exactly it. You've got it, okay? So workplace, active listening strategies. Then we've got personal relationships. So friendships, intimate partners, things like that, right? Personal relationships. Try not to interrupt, right? It's very difficult sometimes, especially when people get excited, right? They love the topic or they love who they're communicating with and they get really excited and they want to join in and chime in. And they end up overlapping, right? In communication, conversation analysis, there's a term which is overlapping speech, which is interruption essentially. But interruption is not always bad. I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily. It really depends on the context. But when you're trying to be an active listener, you do want to interrupt less and give the person time to finish their thoughts, right? Before responding, before, saying your own spiel or chiming in. Show empathy, right? Acknowledge the speaker's feelings. Say things like, I understand how you feel, or that must be really difficult, or that must be so cool that you got that promotion or did that thing or whatever, right? So it's putting yourself in their shoes and saying so. Really try to avoid being judgmental, right? Or dismissive of the person's perspective, right? Being dismissive like, oh, that doesn't matter. Don't worry, or kind of, doing that thing, that the toxic positivity thing, or just be happy, or it could be so much worse, or, just be okay with it. You're fine. Things like that, right? Where it's like supposed to be encouraging and positive, but it's actually quite toxic because it's not validating the person's feelings. Right? It's being dismissive. It's just like, just get over it. You'll get over it. Life's too short to worry, right? That might be true, but it's not helpful in that moment. right? That's why validating is so important. Okay, and that comes in with being non-judgmental and being empathetic. Okay, how are we so far? Thumbs up in the chat. Can I get some thumbs up before we move on? Let's see your thumbs up. Okay, excellent. Terrific. Okay, so we looked at workplace, active listening strategies, and we've looked at personal relationships. Now let's move on to community interactions. So you're in a group, you're chatting with more than one person, you're in a public setting, could be. So obviously, be respectful, be open-minded when engaging with people from all different cultures, all different walks of life, different subcultures even. So just being really respectful and listening actively to make sure that you understand the person's perspective. Even, this is a big one, right? Even if you disagree with their views, we can always agree to disagree. We don't have to see eye to eye on everything, right? You don't agree with your best friend 100% of the time, right? We have differing viewpoints. That's a good thing. Otherwise, everybody would do the same thing, walk the same way, talk the same way, think the same way, right? That's the danger of groupthink. So we want differing opinions. We just have to respect them. And then avoid making assumptions, right? About or stereotyping somebody or perpetuating the stereotype, right? Like there's a stereotype out there for something, for someone, let's say, and then you behave towards them as you would if you were stereotyping them. So we do not want to do that. That's very harmful. It is not effective communication. And we don't want to make assumptions or stereotypes about the speaker based on, you know, their identity or their background or their worldviews or what we think of them, like what we think they should be like or how they should act or things like that, right? No, right? We need to get to know people. We need to get to know them well. And if we don't know them well, we do not stereotype them. We do not make assumptions. So if that's somebody's predisposition, if that's their nature to judge, to stereotype, I really encourage you to rein that in, to control that urge to judge, right? Because think about it. You don't like to be judged. Nobody else does either. Okay, good. All right, so now let us practice this. We've got another multiple choice. So John, a project manager, is in a meeting with a client. Let's call her Mrs. Anderson, who seems agitated, right? There's something upsetting her. She's agitated. She's annoyed. She speaks rapidly, right? So she's speaking really fast about how the last product delivery was not up to her standards and expectations. So while detailing her concern, she also mentions in passing, just briefly, the recent challenges that she's had in her department and the pressure that she's under to deliver results. So she just mentions that briefly, right? To ensure that John, understands the social context and addresses the client's concerns effectively, which of the following active listening strategies or techniques should John employ? Okay, so now that we've got the context here, what should John do? Ready? Should he A, interrupt Mrs. Anderson to quickly provide solutions to the product-related concerns that she mentioned at the start? Because the meeting is about those product-related concerns. That's why they're having this meeting. Should John B, jot down notes about the product issues only, planning to send a detailed email later addressing those points? Should John C provide consistent nonverbal cues like nodding to show he's listening? And then after Mrs. Anderson's finished, summarize not only her concerns about the product, but also acknowledge the challenges that she's facing in her department? Or should John D wait for Mrs. Anderson to finish talking, then immediately pivot the conversation to the new products and offers the company is launching? What do we think? A, B, C, or D? What do we think? What should John do? All right, I'm getting some answers in the chat. Very exciting. What do we think? What do we think? What's John to do? All right. C. Well done. Provide consistent nonverbal cues, right? We're not talking here. We're just showing we're actively listening. We're participating. We're empathetic. Like nodding's a really good one. Another one is leaning in, right? So whether you're sitting or standing, you lean in, you take a step closer, you show you're listening, you're engaged, right? And then after she's finished, he'll summarize not just the concerns about the product, but also acknowledges the challenges that she's facing in her department, right? That speaks as to why she's agitated, perhaps. Good. Okay, now let's look at cultural intelligence. What is this? What in the world is cultural intelligence? Also known as cultural competence, which is part of communicative competence in general. Okay, so it's the ability to understand and effectively navigate across different cultural contexts. Very important in our globalized world. And it involves being aware of one's own cultural assumptions and biases, as well as being able to adapt to new cultural environments and communicate effectively across cultures. Okay? Why is it important? Because in today's globalized world, in our globalized society, cultural intelligence is becoming increasingly important for success in both personal contexts and professional contexts, right? We interact with people from all over the world. We need to understand, different ways of thinking, different cultural perspectives, different worldviews, different understandings about the world through the language we speak, through that cultural lens. And it allows individuals to build stronger relationships with people from different cultures, avoiding misunderstandings and conflicts, and navigating complex social situations effectively. So that is why we love this, and we need it to help us become effective communicators, right? We're not in the monocultural lens here. That is the old, outdated way. We are all about understanding and navigating different cultures, perspectives, languages, being able to have that social fluency across different cultures. Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, how do you develop it? So, reflecting on your own cultural biases, right? Or assumptions like, oh, I thought in this language we do things like this, or I thought people from that culture are like that. No, right? It's not like that. Those are just biases or assumptions, right? So reflecting on those, like, why are they there? Why do we think this of that? And why do we have these thoughts about this culture or that culture? And then learning about different cultures through traveling, through reading, through educating yourself, through talking to people from those cultures, watching films in those cultures, right? Understanding the way life is. And then practicing active listening, very important, and communication skills in these cross-cultural settings. So being able to implement the strategies that I'm sharing with you here today in these cross-cultural settings. And then lastly, asking for feedback, right? Asking questions, looking for some corrective feedback from people in different cultures and settings. Like, for example, in some cultures, eye contact is not a sign of respect. So you have to know that, right? And the only way to know that is to educate yourself. And yes, sometimes it's about trial and error. So being open and saying, I'm not familiar with this culture. I'm sorry if I make any mistakes here, or I'm sorry about that. I didn't understand this or that. And, you explain it, but then learning that thing, and then doing what you need to do in that social context or cultural context. Okay, so let's practice. Lucia, an HR manager, has been assigned to work on a project that involves collaborating with teams from 3 different countries: Brazil, Japan, and South Africa. Recognizing the importance of cultural intelligence or cultural competence in this global context, she decides she wants to prepare herself. Okay, so which of the following actions best demonstrates Lucia developing cultural intelligence for this specific project, right? Where she's collaborating with 3 different cultures: Brazil, Japan, South Africa. Different, right? They're different. So what do you think she should do? Are you ready to look at the options? Okay. So should Lucia, A, decide to rely only on her past experience of working with international teams, believing that all cultures operate in similar ways when it comes to business? Okay, that's a thought. So, B, Lucia researches business etiquette in each country, Brazil, South Africa, and Japan, and schedules informal video calls with team members to get to know them personally and actively asks about their cultural preferences during those informal team meetings. C, Lucia sends an email to all team members instructing them to follow her country's standard business practices to maintain uniformity in the project. So basically telling them, this is how we do it. I want everyone to do it my way. Or is it D, Lucia books a vacation trip to one of the countries to enjoy its famous tourist spots, thinking this will give her a comprehensive understanding of its culture? What do we think? Amazing. I'm seeing some answers coming in the chat. What do we think? So fun. Okay, ready for the answer? B, well done. So she'll research business etiquette in each of the country and do due diligence, right? So scheduling these meetings, getting to know them personally, actively asking for feedback, seeking their cultural preferences. This is exactly it. Exactly it. Amazing. I'm so very proud of you. So if you want to practice these strategies in real life with our wonderful community, then you can do that. We have live video calls and we have so much fun in these calls, and you get to practice the strategies. You get to have real-time feedback from the community, from me, and it's loads of fun. You don't even see how time passes. Time flies, right? Time flies when you're having fun. Then you can definitely join us, join our community in our paid plan so that you get this kind of interaction. Not only that, but you'll get lots of things, web courses that are self-paced. You'll get quizzes, you'll get quests, you'll get challenges, you'll get little homework assignments, you'll get discussions, you'll get a conversation partner if you choose to sign up, which is part of the plan, so no extra cost, and so much more. So that whole community vibe and aspect and platform is there for you. Power of community. It's an incredible thing, right? There's power in numbers. There's power in a community of practice, being able to be with people who are on similar journeys, who have different experiences. We talk about navigating social contexts, navigating different cultures. Come and join us. That's where you can do this. And what's great is that you can do this in a risk-free way, right? No one's going to laugh at you or make fun of you or say, oh, that was a really bad mistake that cost you your job. No, it's risk-free and it's fun. And you get to really prepare for the types of social contexts, the types of meetings you might have or communication events that you might participate in, both for personal, like social, activities and things like that, but also workplace and executive communication and things like that. So looking at both business communication and, casual conversation, personal relationships, this kind of thing. So you've got support, you've got practice, and you've got confidence boosting. So many people come to me and say, I have such crippling social anxiety. I have no confidence. I don't know how to interact with people. I'm so socially awkward. These are people who are native English speakers and also L2 English speakers. It doesn't matter, right? It's anybody can have social anxiety. So they come to the community, they start participating in the live calls, and lo and behold, that anxiety starts to dissipate, if not completely disappear. So it's incredible. People who come in the community say that they have just become so much more confident. They're a different person now, which is so cool to hear. So if you want to join an English speaking community where we focus on communication skills and social fluency, which you can also use in your L1 native languages, right? These are strategies that transcend language. If you want to practice all skills plus social skills and communication, you can do that. And if you want to improve your communication skills, boost your confidence levels, and be quick thinking on your feet, right? Like, how do I interact in this situation? What do I say? What's my retort? What's my response? How do I do this? How do I read the social situation? How do I think fast? That comes with practice. That comes with joining us in our community and practicing all these things, right? It's great that you're watching these YouTube videos that I put out, the Spotify episodes that I put out, coming to these free webinars, but how much more powerful would it be if you actually were able to practice them? That, my friends, is why I designed this community, so that you could actually practice the strategies that I teach you. And we go through lots of strategies, lots of comprehensive real world examples, case studies, our own experiences that we share, lots of really great examples and opportunities to learn and grow, not just from me, but with each other. So it's amazing. It's amazing. So we've got a plan that is $10 a month, and you can just, you can get a 17% discount if you pay for the year, which is $100. And $10 a month is like the price of 2 lattes. If you were to go to a cafe, you could easily spend that, or it's cheaper than the price of lunch for most places. It's also cheaper than a Netflix subscription. So just putting that into context, $10 a month for that plan. And then if you want more interaction, more live video calls, things like that, executive communication, coaching, small group coaching. These are small groups, which is really great. And sometimes they can even be one-on-one sometimes, for whatever scheduling reasons that happen, but they're usually small groups. So that's amazing. And that's $50 a month. Again, a really, really good bargain, because these are normally thousands of dollars if you look around. But I'm offering a very good price because I want to make this available to people. I want people to, like I said, I want to empower people with good communication skills, with the, knowing how to speak in certain social settings, across communication cultures, across cultural settings. And having those skills is really important. Reaching that social fluency. And I love this quote: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Beautiful. What are our members saying? They're saying a lot of amazing things. Maria says, it's the best investment. You won't regret it. Love that. She is one of our members and very participatory. And this is a great, nice and sweet, to the point, what she's saying. This is an example where Helder, so he used the strategies, the communication strategies, not just in English, but also in his L1, which is Portuguese. And he gave a presentation at work using the tips, and everybody loved it. It was a success. So that was amazing. Meredith thinks that Explearning Academy is a very different type of training that she's ever experienced. And she loves the small groups and that everyone in the group participates and gets a chance to talk and gets a chance to be heard. And that increases her confidence in speaking English across different social situations. So she is so much more confident now, which is amazing. And then we've got Edwin, who thinks the style of interaction and teaching is cutting edge, which I think is great that he said that, because that's what we do. That's the goal. He's improved in his daily interactions, and he's surpassed some typical language barriers that, would come up. And he's so much more confident now. He comes on these calls sometimes and he'll tell us, he'll voice that. He say, I'm so confident now. I'm a different person. Like, it's incredible to hear this because you actually feel it, right? Not just people noticing that, and he's had people noticing that he's way more confident now. So it's not just people noticing, oh, this person's super confident. It's that you can also feel it in yourself. You feel it in your bones that you are confident. Raquel, she says she doesn't get to use English in her daily life, but she really needs it for job prospects and promotions. So learning how to navigate different cultures is something that she's here for, and she loves it. And being in small groups, she really appreciates because you get to be active in discussions and lose your fear of public speaking. Remember that social anxiety I talked earlier about? This is one of the ways that we help you overcome it. Saval has a really fun time. She's improved her communication skills, also her language skills, and she loves getting the opportunity for the corrective feedback, right? That feedback component, which is front and center. And then Ishika's a native English speaker, and she's here to improve her social skills, her social emotional intelligence, her interaction, and social fluency. And she loves the way that we teach here. She loves being in the community, participating, learning from people, practicing the skills and strategies. And she feels that she's so much more comfortable to speak her mind without overthinking, without ruminating. And as long as she comes across with integrity and grace, she feels confident. And she loves integrating it in these modules that we have. So yeah. So you can join this plan for $10 a month. You can join this plan for $50 a month, and you get lots of live video calls. We do several a week, and they're a lot of fun. You learn really relevant strategies, just like the things I taught you in this webinar that we talked about and discussed. Lots more to come, lots more that we do interaction-wise. With these live calls, we're all on camera. We all get to share and discuss and interact, get feedback, communicate, practice the strategies, low stakes, risk-free. And everyone's really warm and welcoming and kind. So I've been continually impressed with the people who are in our community. So very lucky to be with you all. So thank you for your participation. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, you can message me in the community. So yeah, I think that's a wrap. Well done. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for investing in yourself. This was, full hour of investing in yourself, which is amazing. So well done to you. Give yourself a pat on the back, and I'll see you really soon for another webinar, and I'll see you in the YouTube lessons and Spotify lessons. And then I'll actually see you face to face if you're in our community live video calls, which you can do by joining one of our paid plans. All right. Thank you so much. And I will see you soon. Bye for now.